Mason's last letter. The old house on Willow Creek Road sat quiet under the summer sun. Mason Reed lived there alone now, his hands shaking as he held his pen. The doctors said he had 6 months, maybe less. Cancer had eaten through him like termites through old wood. He thought about Emma every single day. His Emma, who left 3 years ago without saying goodbye. Just a note on the kitchen table that said, "I can't do this anymore." He never understood what this meant. Was it him? The farm? The life they built together? Mason decided to write her letters. Not to send them because he didn't know where she'd gone. Just to write them. To say all the things he never said when she was here. He pulled out his old leather journal and began. "Dear Emma," he wrote with trembling fingers. "I know you're gone, and maybe you'll never read this, but I need to tell you something. I was wrong about the chickens. It was a small thing, stupid even. 3 years ago, Emma wanted to get chickens. She said they'd be good for eggs, good for the soul. Mason said no. He said they'd be too much work, too much mess. Now he wished he'd filled the whole farm with chickens if it meant she'd still be here." He wrote for an hour that first day, filling 3 pages with his messy handwriting. When he finished, he put the letter in an envelope, sealed it, and wrote letter 1 on the front. Then he placed it in the old wooden box that used to hold Emma's sewing supplies. That night, Mason slept better than he had in months. What Mason didn't know was that Emma Reed had never left town. She lived just 2 miles away, in a small apartment above the bakery on Main Street. And she'd been watching him this whole time. Emma pressed her face against the window of Mason's farmhouse, her breath fogging up the glass. It was midnight, and she knew Mason would be asleep. She'd copied his spare key before she left, kept it in her pocket like a secret she couldn't quite let go of. The house smelled the same, like pine wood and coffee and that special soap Mason always used. Emma's heart hurt just breathing it in. She moved through the dark rooms like a ghost, touching things. The chair where Mason sat every morning. The coffee pot he never cleaned properly. The wedding photo still hanging on the wall. She found the wooden box on the kitchen table. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single envelope with letter 1 written across it. Emma knew she shouldn't read it. This was wrong, sneaking into his house like a thief. But she'd heard about Mason's sickness from Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store. Dying, Mrs. Patterson had whispered. 6 months, maybe less. Emma opened the letter. The words made her cry right there in Mason's kitchen. He wrote about chickens, about being stubborn and stupid, about missing her smile and the way she hummed when she cooked breakfast. He wrote that he was dying, and his biggest regret was losing her. "I don't know what I did wrong," Mason had written, "but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Emma wanted to run to his bedroom and shake him awake and tell him everything. Tell him why she really left. Tell him about the secret she'd been keeping. But she couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She carefully folded the letter back into the envelope, placed it in the box exactly how she found it, and slipped back into the night. From now on, Emma decided she would read every letter. She would come back every week, every night if she had to. She would know Mason's final thoughts, his final words, even if he never knew she was listening. It was the least she could do. And maybe, if she was brave enough, she'd tell him the truth before it was too late. Mason woke up on Tuesday morning feeling lighter somehow. He made his coffee the way Emma used to like it, too much sugar, just a splash of cream. Then he sat down to write his second letter. "Dear Emma," he began, "I'm writing you again because it helps. The doctors say I should make peace with things, and I reckon writing to you is the closest I'll get." He wrote about the day they got married. It was at the little white church on Harper Road. With wildflowers, Emma picked herself that morning. She wore her mama's dress, the one with lace on the sleeves. Mason wore his daddy's old suit that didn't quite fit right. But none of that mattered because Emma smiled at him like he was the only person in the whole world. "You looked like an angel," Mason wrote, "and I was the luckiest man alive. I still don't know what you saw in me. A farmer with dirt under his nails and no fancy education. But you chose me anyway." The memory made him smile and hurt at the same time. He wrote about their first year of marriage, how they burned dinner more times than they got it right. How they danced in the kitchen even though there was no music. How Emma would read books out loud to him while he fixed the tractor. I took all of that for granted, he wrote. I thought we had forever. I thought you'd always be here, humming in the kitchen, reading your books, making me laugh. I was a fool, Emma. The biggest fool who ever lived. When he finished, he put the letter in envelope number 2 and placed it in the wooden box. Then he went outside to work on the fence that had been broken for 2 years. Emma always wanted him to fix that fence. Maybe if he fixed enough things, even the broken ones inside him, something would make sense again. Emma watched from behind the old oak tree as Mason hammered fence posts into the ground. He moved slowly, stopping every few minutes to catch his breath. She could see how thin he'd gotten, how his shirt hung loose on his shoulders. She wanted to run to him, to take the hammer from his hands but the funny thing about cancer, it's unpredictable. Emma's cancer went into remission after treatments. 1 year became 2, then 3. The doctors called her lucky. Emma called it torture. Because now she was healthy, and Mason was alone, and she'd broken his heart for nothing. She couldn't go back. How could she explain? Sorry I left you, honey. But I thought I was dying and wanted to spare you. It sounded stupid even in her own head. And the shame of it, the guilt of leaving him, kept her away. But now Mason was the one dying. And Emma couldn't leave him alone in that, not really. So she'd read his letters. She'd be there in the only way she knew how. That night, Emma went back to the house. She read letter 2 and cried harder than before. Mason remembered their wedding day exactly the same way she did. Every detail, every feeling. They'd shared the most beautiful life, and she'd thrown it away. Emma sat at Mason's kitchen table until dawn, holding his letter against her chest, wishing things were different. By Friday, Mason had written 5 letters. Each one felt like opening a wound and cleaning it out. Painful but necessary. Letter 3 was about the miscarriage. They'd never talked about it properly, not really. Emma got pregnant in their 2nd year of marriage, and they'd been so happy. Mason painted the spare room yellow because Emma said yellow was cheerful. They picked out names, James for a boy, Lily for a girl. But Emma lost the baby at 4 months. She came out of the bathroom crying, and Mason held her while she shook. They never painted that room after all. Just kept the door closed. I should have talked to you about it more, Mason wrote. I should have asked how you were feeling instead of just pretending everything was fine. I thought being strong meant not showing sadness. But maybe you needed me to be sad with you. Letter 4 was about his mama. She died 5 years ago, and Mason had been a mess. He'd spent weeks barely talking, just working the farm from sunup to sundown. Emma tried to help, tried to get him to open up, but he pushed her away. I didn't know how to grieve properly, he wrote, and I made you feel alone even though you were right there. I'm sorry for that. Letter 5 was lighter. He wrote about the time they drove to the coast just because they ate too much fried shrimp and got sunburned and danced on the beach at midnight. Emma said it was the best day of her life. Mine too, Mason wrote. Every day with you was the best day, Emma. I just forgot to tell you that. He sealed the letters and added them to the growing stack in the wooden box. 15 more letters to go. 15 more chances to say goodbye. Emma's Tuesday night visits had become routine. She'd wait until Mason's bedroom light went out, then slip inside with her copied key. She'd make herself a cup of tea using Emma's favorite mug, the one with the chipped handle that Mason never threw away, and read his latest letters at the kitchen table. Letter 3 broke her completely. The miscarriage. Emma had blamed herself for years, thought maybe she'd done something wrong. She'd pulled away from Mason after that, built walls around her heart brick by brick. And Mason, bless his stubborn heart, had let her because he didn't know how to tear those walls down. Reading his words now, she realized they'd both been drowning in grief and guilt, neither one knowing how to save the other. Letter 4 made her angry at herself. When Mason's mama died, Emma should have fought harder to reach him, should have grabbed his face and made him look at her and demanded he let her in. But she'd been scared. scared that if she pushed too hard, she'd push him away forever. Instead, she pushed herself away, and that was worse. Letter 5 made her smile through her tears. The beach trip. Emma remembered Mason's sunburned nose, how he'd complained about sand and everything but kept laughing anyway. She remembered dancing with him, his arms strong around her waist, the moon shining on the water. I should have told you every single day that you were the best thing that ever happened to me, Emma whispered to the empty kitchen. I should have fought for us. She put the letters back carefully, exactly as she found them. But before she left, Emma did something she hadn't done before. She took a piece of paper from Mason's notepad and wrote 3 words. I'm still here. She didn't sign it, didn't explain, just folded the note and tucked it into the wooden box where Mason would find it in the morning. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Mason found the note when he went to add letter 6 to the box. His hands trembled as he read those 3 simple words. I'm still here. He looked around the empty kitchen like Emma might appear out of thin air. Had he written that and forgotten? No, that wasn't his handwriting. It was neat and careful, with little loops on the letters. Emma's handwriting. His heart beat so fast it hurt. Emma had been here, in his house, reading his letters. Mason stumbled to a chair and sat down hard. How long had she been coming here? Had she read all the letters? Did she know about the cancer? 100 questions filled his head, but underneath them all was one feeling: hope. Emma was still here, somewhere in this town, close enough to read his words, close enough to leave a note. He wanted to write, "Where are you?" on a piece of paper and leave it in the box. He wanted to wait up all night to catch her, but something stopped him. If Emma wanted to reveal herself, she would. If she was only brave enough to come in the dark. But his words were gentle, grateful even. Thank you for reading these. Emma wanted to march right up to his house in broad daylight and knock on the door. Wanted to throw her arms around him and never let go. But fear kept her frozen. What if he hated her for leaving? What if knowing the truth, that she'd left because of her own sickness, her own fear, made everything worse? What if Mason couldn't forgive her? Emma drove to the farm that evening and parked down the road where Mason wouldn't see her truck. She walked through the fields she used to know by heart, past the oak tree where they'd carved their initials, past the garden that had gone wild without her care. She stood outside the fence and watched Mason through the kitchen window. He was cooking dinner, looked like soup from a can. He moved slowly, painfully. Emma could see death creeping up on him, and it made her want to scream. I'm right here, she whispered into the evening air. I'm right here, and I'm so sorry. But she still didn't knock on the door. She still didn't go inside. Instead, she waited until midnight, then slipped into the house like always. This time, she left a longer note in the wooden box. I read every word. You didn't do anything wrong. It was me. It was always me. The notes became a conversation without voices. Mason wrote in his letters during the day. Emma wrote back in secret notes at night. They were talking to each other again, just not face to face. Not yet. Why did you leave? Mason wrote in letter 8. I need to understand. Was it something I did? Something I said? Tell me, please. Emma's response came the next night. You were perfect. I was scared. I thought I was protecting you from something terrible. But I only made things worse. What were you protecting me from? Mason asked in letter 9. Emma stared at that question for 20 minutes before writing. From losing me. I thought I was dying. The doctors said 6 months. I didn't want you to watch me fade away, so I left first. She almost didn't leave the note, almost crumpled it up and threw it away. But in the end, she placed it in the box. Mason deserved the truth. When Mason read Emma's confession the next morning, he had to sit down. She'd left because she was dying? Because she wanted to spare him pain? The irony of it hit him like a freight train. They'd both tried to protect each other from death, and in doing so, they'd lost precious years together. Are you still sick? He wrote in letter 10. Are you okay now? I'm better, Emma wrote back. The cancer went away. I'm one of the lucky ones. But you, Mason, I heard about your sickness. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Mason smiled through tears when he read that. "Don't be sorry," he wrote in letter 11. "None of this is your fault. We both made choices because we loved each other too much to cause pain. I understand now. I forgive you, Emma. I forgave you the day you left." By letter 12, Mason could barely hold his pen steady. The cancer was moving faster now, eating away at his strength. His doctor wanted him to go to the hospital, but Mason refused. He wanted to stay in the house where he'd loved Emma, where their life together still lived in every corner. "I'm getting weaker," he wrote honestly. "I don't think I have much time left, but these letters, and your notes, they've given me peace. Thank you for coming back, even if I can't see you." Emma read those words and made a decision. She couldn't hide anymore. Mason was running out of time, and she was wasting what little they had left. On Wednesday morning, Emma put on the yellow sundress Mason always loved. She brushed her hair the way she used to. She put on the wedding ring she'd never really taken off, just kept on a chain around her neck. Then she drove to the farm. Her hands shook as she walked up the porch steps. The door was unlocked. Mason never locked doors. Emma stepped inside and called out softly, "Mason? It's me." She heard movement from the bedroom. Slow footsteps. Then Mason appeared in the doorway. They stared at each other for what felt like forever. Mason looked so different. Thinner, older, tired. But his eyes were still the same warm brown she'd fallen in love with 20 years ago. "Emma?" His voice cracked on her name. "I'm here," she said, tears already streaming down her face. "I'm really here." Mason crossed the room faster than he should have been able to, and suddenly Emma was in his arms. They held each other and cried, both of them shaking, both of them trying to say sorry and I love you and I missed you all at the same time. "I read every letter," Emma sobbed into his shoulder. "Every single one. I've been coming here at night, reading them, wishing I could be brave enough to come in the daylight." "You're here now," Mason said, pulling back to look at her face. "That's all that matters. You're here now." They sat at the kitchen table holding hands, not wanting to let go even for a second. Emma made coffee while Mason watched her move around the kitchen like she'd never left. Like the last 3 years were just a bad dream. "Tell me everything," Mason said. "I need to understand it all." So Emma told him. She told him about the diagnosis, the fear, the decision to leave. She told him about the treatments, the remission, the guilt that kept her away. She told him about watching the house from the oak tree, about copying the spare key, about reading his letters in the dark. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she said. "I thought leaving would hurt you less than staying and dying would. But I was wrong. I hurt you anyway. And I wasted 3 years we could have spent together." Mason squeezed her hand. "We can't get those years back. But we have now. However much time I've got left, we have that." "How much time?" Emma asked, even though she was afraid of the answer. "Doctor says maybe a month. Maybe 2 if I'm lucky." Mason said it calmly, like he was talking about the weather. "But I feel richer now than I did yesterday. I got you back, Emma. That's worth everything." Emma couldn't stop crying. A month. Maybe 2. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. "I'm not leaving again," she said firmly. "Whatever happens, I'm staying right here with you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be here until the end." "I'd like that," Mason said softly. "I'd like that very much." They spent the rest of the day just being together. Emma cooked Mason's favorite meal, fried chicken and mashed potatoes and green beans from the garden she used to tend. They ate slowly, savoring every bite, every moment. That night, Emma didn't sneak in through the darkness. She slept in their bed, in Mason's arms, where she belonged. Emma moved back into the farmhouse, and it was like putting on an old comfortable shirt. Everything fit just right even after 3 years. She knew where Mason kept the coffee, which floorboard creaked, how the morning light came through the east window. But Mason was different now, sicker. Some days he could barely get out of bed. Emma took care of him with fierce determination, cooking his meals, helping him bathe, reading to him when he was too tired to hold a book. "You don't have to do all this?" Mason said one afternoon when Emma was helping him to the bathroom. "Yes, I do," Emma replied. "I lost 3 years with you because I was too scared to face death. I'm not losing one more second." Mason wrote letter 13 that week, but this time he read it out loud to Emma instead of putting it in the box. "Dear Emma," he began, his voice rough but steady. "Today you're sitting right next to me, and I don't have to imagine your face anymore. I can see it. You're as beautiful as the day I married you. More beautiful, even, because now I know how precious every moment is." Emma held his hand while he read, tears running down her cheeks. "I forgive you for leaving," Mason continued, "and I need you to forgive yourself. You did what you thought was right. You tried to protect me because you loved me. I can't be angry about that. I can only be grateful that you came back." When he finished reading, Emma kissed him gently. "I forgive you too," she said, "for all the times you didn't talk to me, for all the times you shut me out. We both made mistakes, but we loved each other through all of it." "We did," Mason agreed. "We do." That night, they lay in bed talking about all the good memories. The time they got caught in a rainstorm and danced in the mud. The time Mason surprised Emma with a kitten for her birthday. The time they drove 3 hours just to see the fall leaves change color. "We had a good life," Mason said sleepily. "Better than most people get." "We did," Emma whispered. "And we're not done yet." Mason got sicker faster than the doctors predicted. By the 3rd week of Emma being back, he couldn't leave the bed at all. Emma set up everything he needed in the bedroom, water. Emma had to leave the room to cry properly. It wasn't fair. They'd just gotten each other back, and now time was running out. But she pulled herself together and returned to Mason's side. "What do you want to do today?" she asked, wiping her eyes. "Just be with you," Mason said. "That's all I want." So they spent the day together in comfortable silence. Emma read her book out loud the way she used to. Mason listened, his eyes closed, a small smile on his face. Every now and then he'd reach for her hand, and she'd squeeze back, and that was enough. Mason's brother Jake and sister Ruth came to visit. They hadn't seen Emma in 3 years, and the reunion was emotional. But they didn't ask too many questions. They just hugged her and said they were glad she was back. "Take care of him," Jake said quietly to Emma before they left. "He needs you." "I will," Emma promised. "I'm not going anywhere." After they left, Emma and Mason sat on the front porch in the afternoon sun. Mason was bundled in blankets even though it was warm out. He'd gotten so thin that Emma could see every bone in his hands. "Do you remember what you said on our wedding day?" Mason asked suddenly. "I said a lot of things," Emma replied with a small smile. "You said, 'I promise to love you even when it's hard, especially when it's hard.'" Mason looked at her with those brown eyes that still made her heart skip. "You kept that promise, Emma. Even when you left, you were trying to love me the best way you knew how." "I should have stayed," Emma said, guilt washing over her again. "I should have trusted you to handle it." "Maybe," Mason agreed, "but we can't change the past. We can only love each other right now." Bye to check on him and said it wouldn't be much longer. "Is he in pain?" Emma asked worriedly. "Not too much," Dr. Parker assured her. "We're keeping him comfortable. He's at peace, Emma. That's the best we can hope for." Emma never left Mason's side. She slept in the chair next to the bed, holding his hand through the night. She talked to him even when he was asleep, telling him stories about their life together, reminding him of all the good times. "Remember when we adopted that stray dog?" she said one evening. "The one that was half wild? You said it would never learn manners, but you taught it to sit and shake and roll over. You were so patient with that dog." Mason smiled faintly, his eyes still closed. "Duke," he murmured. "Good dog." "The best dog," Emma agreed. "Just like you're the best man, the best husband, the best love I ever could have asked for." On a Tuesday morning, with golden sunlight streaming through the bedroom window, Mason woke up more alert than he'd been in days. "Emma," he said clearly. I need to tell you something. Emma sat up quickly, taking his hand. I'm here. What is it? I want you to be happy after I'm gone, Mason said, looking right into her eyes. Don't spend the rest of your life grieving. Live, Emma. Really live. Find joy again. Mason. Emma started to protest, but he squeezed her hand weakly. Promise me, he insisted. Promise me you'll live. I promise, Emma whispered, even though the words hurt to say. I promise I'll try. Mason nodded, satisfied. Good. That's good. He was quiet for a moment, then added, I wrote you one more letter. It's in the box. Letter 20. Don't read it until after. Promise me that too. I promise, Emma said again, tears streaming down her face. They spent that day talking softly, reminiscing, sometimes just sitting in silence. Mason told Emma where the important papers were, where he'd hidden some money for her, which fields should be planted next spring. You're talking like you're leaving tomorrow? Emma said, trying to smile through her tears. I might be, Mason replied gently. I can feel it, Emma. I'm tired. So tired. That night, Emma climbed into bed beside Mason and held him carefully. Afraid of, I forgive you for leaving, and I need you to forgive yourself. You did what you thought was right. Love makes us do strange things sometimes. It makes us brave and foolish all at once. Live your life, Emma. Plant that garden again. Get those chickens you wanted. Fill this house with laughter and light. Don't let it become a tomb. I want it to be a home again, even without me in it. And if you ever meet someone else who makes you smile, don't feel guilty. I want you to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for those final weeks. Thank you for letting me die knowing I was loved. That's the greatest gift anyone could give. I'll be waiting for you, whenever your time comes. We'll dance on that beach again, Emma. Promise. All my love. Forever and always, Mason. Emma cried until she had no tears left. Then she folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the box with all the others. Spring came to Willow Creek, and with it, Emma began to heal. She planted the garden just like Mason asked. Tomatoes and green beans and those big sunflowers Mason always loved. She got 6 chickens and named them after flowers: Daisy, Rose, Lily, Violet, Iris, and Poppy. She fixed the broken fence. She painted the spare room yellow like they'd planned all those years ago. She opened all the windows and let the spring air blow through the house. Every evening, Emma sat on the front porch and read one of Mason's letters. She'd read them all 20 times by now, but they still brought comfort, still made her feel connected to him. Mrs. Patterson from the grocery store started coming by for coffee. Then Pastor Williams and his wife. Then Jake and Ruth. The farmhouse slowly filled with life again, with laughter and conversations and warmth. Emma started volunteering at the church, helping with the children's Sunday school. She joined the town's book club. She learned to live again, just like she'd promised. But she never forgot Mason. She wore his wedding ring on a chain around her neck, right next to her own. She talked to him sometimes, telling him about her day, asking his opinion on things. She knew he couldn't answer, but it helped anyway. 1 year after Mason's death, Emma did something bold. She took his letters and made copies. Then she donated them to the town library, with a note explaining the story. These letters represent a love that survived mistakes and distance and death, she wrote in the introduction. They're honest and real and sometimes painful to read. But they're also beautiful. They show that it's never too late to say what you feel. Never too late to ask for forgiveness. Never too late to love. The letters became famous in their small town. People would come to the library specifically to REA. Teenagers would cry over letter 5. Elderly couples would hold hands while reading letter 14. The librarian told Emma that Mason's letters had saved at least 3 marriages and inspired countless people to reach out to loved ones they'd lost touch with. Your husband's words are healing people, the librarian said. Even after he's gone, he's still making a difference. Emma smiled through tears. That's exactly what Mason would have wanted. 2 years after Mason's death, Emma was working in the garden when she heard a truck pull up. She straightened, wiping dirt from her hands, and saw a young woman climbing out. She looked nervous, clutching something to her chest. "Mrs. Reed?" the woman called out hesitantly. "That's me," Emma said, walking over. "Can I help you?" The woman held out a book, a journal, actually. "My name is Sarah Mitchell. I read your husband's letters at the library. They changed my life." Emma gestured to the porch. "Come sit. Tell me about it." Sarah sat on the same steps where Emma and Mason used to watch the sunset. "My father and I hadn't spoken in 5 years," she began. "We had a fight about something stupid, and both of us were too proud to apologize. Then I read Mason's letters. The one about his mama dying, about how he shut people out. That was me. That was exactly what I was doing to my dad." "What did you do?" Emma asked gently. "I drove to his house that same day," Sarah said, tears in her eyes. "I knocked on the door and said I was sorry. We both cried. We talked for hours. And now we have a relationship again. I got my father back because your husband was brave enough to write those letters." Sarah held out the journal. "I started writing my own letters. To my dad, to my husband, to my daughter. Important things I need to say, just in case I don't get another chance. I wanted you to have this. To know that Mason's words are still echoing out there. Still helping people." Emma took the journal with shaking hands. Inside, Sarah had written dozens of letters, all addressed to different people she loved. The first page simply said, "Inspired by Mason Reed, who taught me that it's never too late to speak from the heart."